Andrews, and for the first time in a long time, I am joined by all of my friends here. Well, all of my friends, and then also Richard Jefferson. So Richard and I are joined by Kendrick Perkins, Shanae Agumake, Adrian Wojnarowski, and Zach Lowe is going to be stopping by in just a little bit. But I remember earlier in the season, Big Perk, you were talking about how, we don't have enough games in Memphis. We don't have enough nationally televised games. Well, you got all of us here. Are you happy now?
Yeah, I'm very happy. And look, this is just the start of a new beginning because we're going to be here for a long time because of Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies. Look, if you don't like Memphis, it's because you're uppity and sedity. See, this is about getting it out the mud. That's why me and Memphis, we relate. We have so much in common, unlike Richard and Shanae, who got a flight out of here right at 4 o'clock.
Okay, we are coming in hot today. All right, this is where I want to start, though, because yesterday, you all right, Richard?
If there was a flight at 3:55, I'd be on that one instead at 4 o'clock.
That can be arranged.
Okay,
that can be arranged. All right, I do want to start here, though, because yesterday Memphis announced that Ja Morant would be out tonight for the second straight game with soreness in his right knee. So, Woj, are there any long-term concerns here about Ja Morant's health?
Yeah, Malika, they're just trying to get Ja Morant off that knee for a couple of days, evaluate it. They're going to have a better sense this week of how much longer he might have to be out, if at all. But right now, got hurt Friday night, tweaked that knee, and now he'll miss his second straight game. I think we'll have a better sense of it in the next couple days.
Absolutely. And I spoke with Ja Morant yesterday, and he said, my body tends to heal faster than the average body does, so he doesn't seem too concerned, at least long-term here. But I know when I found out that we were coming to Memphis, my thought sort of went to, Kyrie Irving. Happy birthday, by the way, Kyrie. Kyrie Irving, Ja Morant, and that matchup. That's what I wanted to see. Obviously, no Ja tonight, Shanae, so which matchup are you most excited to watch?
I'm going to take a creative outlook on the matchup to watch, and it's Kyrie, who has scored 50 points in 2 of the last 3 games, versus the overall Memphis Grizzlies defense. I mean, this defense has been fabulous. Ever since All-Star break, I believe they're 4th best in defensive efficiency. And so I'm curious, Ja even said, all right, Jaren Jackson Jr., your defensive player of the year. We talk about Draymond Green. We talk about Rudy Gobert, how this defense sort of tailors funneling star players to the help side where Jaren Jackson Jr. can really thrive as a defender. And so I'm going to look at the Grizzlies defense overall, slowing down Kyrie, who has been hot as of late, especially on the road where he makes his money these days for Brooklyn.
Look, I think it's really Jaren Jackson Jr., KD, like that kind of matchup for me. Now, I know he's probably not going to start on Kevin Durant. Who knows? But when you look at the way they play defense, moving around switches, there's going to be a lot of opportunity. And I want to see what KD's going to do with this young team.
I'm going with Tyus Jones and Kyrie Irving. And look, we know that Tyus Jones is not going to go out there and get you 50. But if you look at when Ja is out, they're 14-2, and he's the floor general. Like, his points are up, his assists are up, and I'm just looking forward to the matchup. And he's like a pest defensively, fighting to get up over screens. And in my opinion, he's the best backup point guard in the NBA.
All right. Well, you mentioned it. Kyrie Irving, Shanae mentioned it. The road games, that's where he's getting his bread these days because he's still unavailable to play in home games because he is unvaccinated. So, Woj, is there any update that you have on the New York City vaccine mandates here?
Yeah, and remember, the vaccine mandate is not only impacting Kyrie Irving and the Nets, but the Yankees and Mets, whose opening days are coming in New York, April 7th, and then shortly after that. So you've got all 3 teams engaged with the city in both leagues, trying to see the pathway here to get, I think, certainly Kyrie Irving here sooner back on the court. And I think what's happening now ultimately is I think there's 5-day increments with the mandate to renew it. And so tomorrow is another, Thursday is an increment, and then it'll be 5 days after tomorrow if they don't tomorrow. I think there's optimism that it is coming, that there's a pathway for Kyrie Irving to play again for the Nets at home this season. But you heard Eric Adams, New York City's mayor, yesterday say that the sports teams in New York, the Nets, Mets, Yankees, are going to have to wait their turn. But there's optimism out there. They may not have to wait too much longer.
Well, I'm sure that the Nets, especially, they have their fingers crossed because while there's still no set date yet on the Kyrie front as it pertains to home games. And remember, we also haven't seen Ben Simmons in any games. He's still out with a herniated disc in his back. And Steve Nash said earlier this week, right, that he still has high hopes that Simmons will play this season. But Brooklyn has just 10 games left in the regular season, and there's still so much uncertainty surrounding this team. So, Perk, you know that Brett Brown saying it's all about how the plane lands on April 10th? For you, as you're looking at this stretch, right?
Never heard that one,
It's all about how the plane
good.
lands.
Okay.
So when you're looking over this final stretch, what do you need to see from the Nets to have confidence in what they can do in the postseason?
What if the plane don't land? Right. That's what I'm looking at. What if the plane don't land? So
It's going to crash. If the plane don't land, it's going to get to the ground at some point.
It's going to crash. That's exactly what's going to happen to the Brooklyn Nets. I don't see them having no hope of making it out of the Eastern Conference with a part-time Kyrie, and we don't know the status of Ben Simmons. And look, people could come back and say, oh, he's going to be an elite defender, and he's 6'10", he's so versatile. But again, he hasn't played since June. Like, we don't know what his workload on his legs is going to be able to handle. So I'm looking at how stacked the Eastern Conference is. Part-time Kyrie with no signs of Ben Simmons, and as great as KD has been, they're not making it out of the East.
So Richard just sat up like extra straight, like he has
That's
something to
fine.
say. So what's going on, Rich?
I agree with Perk. Man, at the end of the day, look, when you look at the Brooklyn Nets, no team has won a championship finishing 7 or below. I think the Houston Rockets won it finishing 6. And that year they were the defending champions. So they were coming back as the defending champions. It was like if the Milwaukee Bucks were to get healthy late in the season. So I think since COVID and around that time, we've been talking about teams bringing it together, whether it's the Lakers last year or, the Golden State Warriors this year or Philly this year. All of this talk about teams getting it together. Well, historically, in the 75 years of the NBA, not many teams have put it together in April and went on to win a championship, especially the way this route goes. So, we can look at this and say with almost certainty that the chances of a team finishing in the 8th, 7th, 6th spot is probably 1% of winning it. Now, it can be done, but ultimately history says it's not that way.
And how will it be done? Well, it's going to be extremely difficult because if they're in the 7th or 8th position, you're going to go up against a Miami Heat team or Milwaukee Bucks team in the first round where you say the silver lining is, okay, Kyrie would be available if things weren't to change in a Game 7 scenario, but still, that seems way too hard.
Okay, well, let's go ahead then to another team that has hopes of making a deep playoff run because, Woj, before we let you go, I understand you may have some breaking news about a Western Conference head coach. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, I'm told Michael Malone in Denver has agreed to a multi-year contract extension. He had another year left on his deal next year. They'll add on to that. And now this is 7 years in Denver. He's a third all-time winningest coach there. And you see the continuity they've had in Denver from Josh Kroenke, Tim Connolly in ownership, to Mike Malone, and building this organization around Nikola Jokic, player development. And now a window, you look at this season, 6th in the West. They have not yet had a game where they've had Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. playing together. Still some hope they can get 1 or 2 of those players back. This is a team with a championship window over the next couple of years when they get their group back. Now they've got Michael Malone locked in. And you look at, in this day and age of coaches, it's coming and going. This is a coach now who has a chance to be in one place for a decade. And you just see the success in Denver. I think it's tied so much to continuity and really building a program and a culture there.
Absolutely. And from my perspective, I know that Michael Malone is one of the most pleasant coaches to deal with in the league. It is always just excellent to have a conversation with him. But Richard, I know that you've played for Michael Malone. What do you make of this move?
Well, when I look at the Denver Nuggets organization, I think this started way back even further. I think Josh Kroenke, Masai Ujiri, who is doing amazing things in Toronto. So when you look at that, I think that was a big move. When Masai left, Josh Kroenke then had to go find another person that was on the same level. Brings in Tim Connolly. Tim Connolly has done an outstanding job. Then they go Mike Malone, and they hire Mike Malone. They initially hired Brian Shaw, didn't work out. They bring in Mike Malone, and he's done an outstanding job. But to say that they've done an outstanding job, they've drafted well, they've developed well. That is a very hard thing to do. It's easy to draft well when you're in the 7, 8, when you have that rate. But when you can draft players like Malik Beasley and have him turn out, Monte Morris in the second round, have him turn out, Jokic in the second round, and have him turn out to be the first MVP. When I look at it, I think it's Jamal Murray. It starts at Josh Kroenke, then it goes to Tim Connolly, and then really what Masai Ujiri kind of began. And that entire group, they've done an outstanding job, one of the best in the league of development.
Absolutely. So a contract extension for Michael Malone. We were going to see what Denver can do in the playoffs because we know that we'll see when they get their pieces back. Will we see Michael Porter Jr.? Will we see Jamal Murray? They have high hopes for this season. All right, we have much more all access.